Welcome to Offscreen. This week we're reading Shut In by Christina Hodson. A woman who tries to raise her catatonic son on her own suddenly discovers a shocking secret about him.
So what do we know about Christina Hodson?
This script appeared on the blacklist. I forget what year we said.
That was 2012.
2012, yeah. She's since had another project on the blacklist called
Project Eden.
Project Eden. Yeah. She was hired to write a remake of The Fugitive, I guess.
Okay.
And she was also hired by the Transformer people to develop spin-off ideas for Hasbro products and all
what?
that stuff.
I thought it was like for movies, like sequels
Yeah,
and
like
stuff.
movies that can be made from Transformers and other Hasbro toys.
Well, that's
I think
only slightly less disgusting.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too promising.
Yeah.
But maybe
That's a weird
it'll make for a better Transformers movie.
I don't know. That's a weird idea to me that they have now like a whole brain trust of people.
Right.
Who are there? It's just their job to come up with ideas for spin-offs. That's kind of horrifying.
Yeah. Well, when you have a cash cow like Hasbro does, you gotta milk it for all it's worth.
I guess.
Fun thing we learned about this movie, which we didn't know when we created the poll,
Right.
was that actually it's already been made. Or it's been made, but it'll be released in November of this year.
Yeah.
And it's starring Naomi Watts and Oliver Platt and Jacob Tremblay. But I don't know who he is.
Wait, I've heard that name. Oh, that kid. Okay.
Who's that kid?
I don't know, but he has an annoying.
Oh, he's from Room.
He has an annoying face, though.
Oh, he's from Room.
Okay, so I never saw Room.
He apparently was. I didn't either, but he was apparently quite good in it.
Yeah.
And we know Naomi Watts is always sublime.
Well, I mean, she's fine.
Okay, whatever. And she has another project. Christina Hodson, that is, has another project called Unforgettable that's, I guess, filming or in development.
Okay.
So she's doing quite well for herself.
Yeah. So this script that we read, I guess, is really like that was like one of her first successes.
I think it's going to be her first produced thing.
Yeah.
This is a horror.
Pretty much just straight up horror movie. Okay.
Cool.
I know I don't usually say this, and I know I've gone on record as saying, have I said about spoilers, I don't believe in them, that whole thing?
Sure, yeah.
But if you do believe in spoilers, this is a really twisty, turny, spoilery summary that I'm about to.
No, if you care about spoilers, you're not listening to this podcast.
Yeah, fine. Fair enough.
Right?
Okay.
That's the whole thing we do is spoil it.
Yes. Okay, here goes.
Yeah.
Mary, a clinical psychologist, works from home to better care for her quadriplegic son, Stephen. When a patient tells her about a local boy who's run away from home, Mary feels guilty for planning to send her own son away to an adult care facility. In the days leading up to Stephen's move, she's haunted by visions of the orphan boy, his mouth gruesomely stitched shut with twine. Mary Skypes with her own psychologist, Dr. Wilson, to cope with the stress, but when she accidentally leaves her webcam running, the doctor spies Stephen getting out of his wheelchair. As Mary soon discovers, Stephen has been faking his condition in a perverted effort to be closer to his mother. What's more, the orphan boy she's been seeing is real. Stephen kidnapped him and stitched his mouth shut so that he and Mary could care for him as parents. Braving a snowstorm, Dr. Wilson arrives at the house to help. Stephen quickly kills him, but it buys Mary enough time to rescue the orphan boy and make a run for it. In a final confrontation between mother and son, Mary bashes Stephen's head into the ground, killing him. The end.
Yep.
That's pretty much like almost the last line of the script.
Yeah.
It ends like with very little resolution or like I mean, killing him is resolving the problem.
That resolves the
certainly.
plot, yeah.
But oof. Yeah, this one was a doozy.
Yeah.
So, where to begin? I think the first thing I want to mention about this is that the whole twist of him not actually being paralyzed came kind of surprisingly early to me in the script, right? I mean, it's a short script.
It came about halfway, don't you think?
Yeah, but usually I would think that would be like late. Maybe I'm thinking of Eli, because we read Eli, and there are some other similarities. It's about like a sick child being cared for, and he's like stuck inside.
It's a very similar movie to Eli.
Yeah, he has to be
in
inside.
terms of just plot.
Yeah, but that one, of course, the twist came right at the end. But I think that's my problem with this one is like, and I hate to start on the negative, but that twist comes so early in the script that it has to continue like escalating it for so much longer that it just becomes too much at the end of it. It becomes too extreme. I think if they had waited for that twist a little bit later, they could have just run with it and ended it a little more quickly, and it wouldn't have had to get so extreme. There were like some insane things that happen in here.
The last fight is really prolonged, I think,
yes.
Right?
And also, like, that doctor, when he shows up, yeah, Steven kills him, and then he, like, strings up his intestines all over the house, like tinsel, basically.
Yeah.
And somehow he's still alive for, like, a few seconds afterwards.
For a little bit.
Like, enough that Mary has, like, a parting little moment with him.
Right.
If your intestines are strung throughout a house, there's no way you're in talking shape.
Well, I don't think he really talked. There was just like a look in his eye.
Even
that
so.
showed that he was not yet completely dead.
Even so.
Just firmly on his way there.
But yeah, it just keeps one-upping itself to an absurd degree.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think if it had held off a little bit longer on that twist.
It's kind of a common thread. I feel like we say a lot that restraint goes a long ways.
Yeah, and this was so good at it at first. Like,
yeah.
I was loving the first, like, act of this.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Yeah. It was so well written and, like, really restrained and just really, like, kind of heartbreaking. Like, it begins just showing her daily routine of caring for her son. She has to, like, bathe him and feed him. He's, completely immobile.
Yeah.
And it's, like, almost pointless. That's what's so, like, sad about it. It's like you don't even know if Steven is, like, all there, if he appreciates any of this.
By all accounts, he's not, yeah.
Yeah, she just, like, sits him in front of the TV all day while she goes to work next door and, like...
Yeah.
As a psychologist, she
like dutifully, she does it every single day, like lovingly taking care of him. It's like a real maternal thing. Before all that, though, I like the opening where it turns out Steven's like a troublemaker from the get-go, and he's being sent away to boarding school.
Right.
But I like how they handled the accident. Basically, Steven and Richard is the father. Richard is driving Steven away to boarding school, and there's an accident, a car accident. And I like the restraint with which they presented that to us.
Right, you don't actually...
didn't overly explain it.
Yeah, and you don't actually see the accident.
Yeah.
You just see her getting the call.
She gets the call. You don't know that the husband died or like what exactly happened.
Right.
It just cuts to the present day.
Right. So it jumps like 4 years later. So yeah, she's been caring for him like this for 4 years.
Yeah.
By the time the story happens.
I felt like really kind of heartrending.
Yeah,
that it cuts from like this, like the normalcy of her life before, and then to the normalcy of her life in the present, and how, like the drudgery of it.
Yeah. Even when it starts getting a little more creepy, I was still impressed at how kind of minimalistically it was written, or at least like I was saying, very restrained. Like, let me find this. Yeah, so okay, page 25 is like when she first sees this kid, which you assume it's just like a ghost at first, the kid with his mouth all stitched up. She's going to bed and it's completely dark in the room. She closes her eyes. When she opens them again, the room is still dark, but now the door is open. The hallway outside is dark, but she can make out a figure in the doorway. It's the silhouette of a child entering her room, moving towards her. It's very matter of fact. There are no capitalizations. There are no exclamation marks. Even when it gets to the point of this creepy kid, like hovering right over her bed, it's like really scary, and it would be extremely visceral and like almost like it would make you jump in theaters, definitely. But like, yeah, none of it is overwritten to like no exclamation marks in any of that.
Right. Minimal capitalization.
Yeah, which is kind of nice because I've seen a lot of like things
compare that to
there's like capitalization.
The Babysitter, which
I don't remember.
That's the one that just had like one word and like 150 page font on a page.
Oh yeah,
like the polar opposite, where it's like really over stylized.
Right.
Which can be effective, but would not have worked for this screenplay.
Yeah, and at a certain point, there's kind of like capitalization inflation that goes on, where it's like you lose all emphasis from it. You know,
right?
You want to just capitalize either. I think sounds you usually want to capitalize if it's a specific sound that needs to be in the film, but then also just if you're trying to emphasize something, you should use it sparingly. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Which this
otherwise it loses its impact.
Yeah. There's kind of a Shining vibe to this too, I felt.
Just because they're all tucked away in the snow and isolation.
Kind of. I mean, and like, especially though, I think I got it when the doctor was coming to try and save the day.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of, what's his name? Scatman Crothers? That's the actor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? I think that's his name. He was the guy in The Shining. He's like the caretaker of the hotel before Jack Nicholson shows up, and he kind of like drives through the snowstorm to try and save them. Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's neither here nor there, but it reminded me of The Shining a little bit. But he was pointless though, the doctor.
In this?
Yeah.
I thought it was a good character.
Well, he just dies, and there's like
I think that works with how despairing and fucked up it gets by the end.
But he does nothing to help the situation, I don't think, tries. Except like I said, he kind of distracts Stephen a little bit while Mary tries to escape.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't help the situation. He tries to, and he fails.
Okay, yeah, so then what's the point, though?
Well, sometimes you try and sometimes you fail.
Yeah, but the point of a story is for things to matter. Like, that's why you put them in the story.
Not if the point is that it doesn't matter, or just it adds to like the difficulty of it.
I don't know.
This was the one person that could help.
The
one person that could come help her. It's in the middle of the storm.
What about Doug? He also died. Doug,
yeah, that was pretty good. Because
I didn't mention him, but he was like the dad of one of Mary's patients.
Which is probably not an acceptable relationship. But...
Right, he had the hots for her, and they kind of had a date, but he ends up you don't even see him arrive or how he dies, you just see the aftermath.
Don't you think that makes it scarier, though?
Yes,
and
that's
makes
fine.
It, like, helpless, like how helpless she is. There's no help coming for her, and that's what I mean by it. There's no help coming for her. Because
I don't know.
Once the doctor dies, then you automatically move to Doug. Like, who else could come and help her, maybe?
Uh-huh.
And then you just see Doug dispatched with outside unceremoniously.
Right. I don't know.
It's pretty menacing.
I feel like usually what I see in stories is like if someone dies, there's usually at least some lasting effect or a thing they leave behind that ends up helping the hero. You know? Otherwise, I just don't know why we need him. Like,
because life is fucking terrible, Daniel.
Well, that certainly seems to be the point, the message of this script.
Oh, no, this script ends, aside from the fact that she bashes her son's head in, but she saves the little boy, so yeah, that's a bright spot.
I guess.
It ends on a note of hope, assuming they don't freeze to death in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, well, I also don't know how she is gonna survive any of this. Like, she had her leg slit open all the way from like the knee to the heel, and she also had her hand nailed into the ground, and then she just ripped
her hand up.
I don't think you could do that. I think the nail would sooner come out than you would get you know. Well, like, she just ripped her hand out, and the nail just like went all the way through her hand, right?
Oh yeah, the nail stayed fixed in the ground. Yeah,
I don't think that would. I'm not a doctor, but I don't think he could do that.
I think that depends on how hard you hammer the nail in.
He must have pretty hard, right? I don't know.
But maybe I kind of took it, or I kind of thought of it in like a maternal sense. Like, if your kid's in danger, the like incredible like logic defying extent to which you will rush to protect him or her. And in this case, Steven's replaced by the orphan boy.
Right. Yeah.
Right. She's trying to protect him. Because a lot of the movie is about her guilt as a mother for sending her son away to boarding school.
Right.
And then on that very day, the accident happening.
Right.
And when she's talking with her doctor, with her therapist, everything is talked about in terms of how you didn't really see a boy. It's just sleep paralysis, probably brought on by the great amount of stress and guilt that you're experiencing.
Right. Yeah, that was strong.
I can kind of see her. It kind of makes it a little more plausible to me that she could do things that would cause her this crazy
like when
harm.
you hear stories of like a mom lifting up a car to save her child underneath. Yeah. Okay, fair. I'll give it that, I guess.
But I do agree with you though that it's too many of those things. Like, if Steven really did slice down her calf, like all the way to her ankle, I don't know.
Yeah,
she's bleeding out. She's not just throwing on a boot and walking away.
Yeah, she does. She just puts on a boot and she's fine.
And it's not I don't know. What did you think? Do you think Steven was too evil?
Well, he got ridiculous.
He went from being nothing, literally catatonic, to being...
Well, to the point of like, here's what I wrote down as like the most extreme part is at one point, when he cuts her leg, he like licks the wound. It says like, his tongue flicks out of his mouth and he touches it to the wound. Yeah. Like, come on, that's just cartoony evil. Yeah. That's like, no, it was just bananas.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's too far gone. He's too much, especially when we're given no sense that he's going to boarding school, but we're given a sense that he's a troublemaker and that's why he's going to boarding school. Yeah. Not that he's a fucking psychopath and going to boarding school.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so there didn't seem to be any indication of that beforehand. In fact, quite the opposite.
And it would be so creepy and cool if it was just like a really reserved sort of obsession with him being with his mom. Yeah. You know, like what's his name in Psycho?
Yeah, Norman Bates.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I liked all the other character stuff, though, the backstories and, like, the motivations, and like what you were saying about, you know, Mary speaking with her therapist and him saying this was all sort of a manifestation of her guilt. All of that played really well. Mm-hmm. It was, I think, mostly the plot stuff that was too much for me, but I wanted to make a point about how when she was talking to her therapist, he's trying to convince her, you know, this kid you're seeing is not real, this is just your guilt. And she soon becomes convinced that, no, this is really happening. And there's, I think, too much time spent on that. I guess it pulled the rug out from under me when you learn that the kid really is real. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to make a point that in a lot of these horror movies, I feel like they waste too much time debating whether something is real or not within the world of the story. And I don't care about that, especially when I know it's just a movie. And it's all fake anyway. Sure. And I think this is just like a futile attempt by a lot of movies to scare people more by making them think it could be real. I was just listening. It reminded me of a commercial I heard on the radio the other day for, I think it was The Conjuring 2. They're making a big point of saying like, this is the most documented case ever of a possession or whatever. Yeah. It's like, I don't care. They're all wrong still. Doesn't make it any more real to me. And yeah.
So you're saying that it's just The Conjuring isn't real? The case that
I'm going to call it right now. The Conjuring did not actually happen. Okay. And not in the way they understand it. Maybe some crazy stuff happened. I don't think there is an actual possession.
Okay, you're on record now.
Yes. Anyway, there's like an arms race of that going on in movies right now, I think, where it's like, no, this story is based on an even more true story, which is like the most documented case ever. And I don't care.
Also, yeah, they all keep saying that. Like one after another says this is the most documented case.
There can't be more than one most documented.
Right. And also, that's I mean, I don't know, but I feel like it's bullshit and they're just saying that. They're lying.
They're counting on you not actually going and looking at the documents.
Right, because it's not true. And they just want to market it that way.
But yeah, but to me, that's like the whole point and the beauty of fiction is that you can ignore the fact that this may or may not be true. It doesn't matter. It's just the ideas that matter. Yeah. That's what makes things scary to me. I don't care if it really happened. Right. I don't know.
You just want to get on with it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Just give me to the spooks. There were some good moments in here, though. I really liked the thing with the doctor. Like I was saying, she accidentally leaves her Skype window open and he can see into the
That's really
house.
good.
That was so cool.
So good.
And that was before I got pissed off about how ridiculous the story got. So I was still really, really into it. And
well, also they did a great thing. They cut away. They cut back to her.
Right.
So you're like left hanging because you don't know what he saw.
Well, I think they actually go so far as to say Steven gets out of his chair.
Yeah.
But then you cut to her and you don't know where Steven is. You just know that he's not in the chair.
Yeah. So you don't know if he was forcibly taken from his chair or if he got out of his chair.
That didn't even occur to me. I pretty much had already jumped to he's actually not paralyzed.
But we don't see him.
Right.
The doctor calls out. What also was cool was how they set that up. They made a real point of mentioning where Steven in his wheelchair was in like pretty much every scene.
Right.
In relation to where Mary was and when she was talking on the phone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was cool. And this was kind of cheesy, but I thought it was cool and I liked it. So she's saving the little orphan boy and she like actually cuts the like stitches that are closing his mouth. And he's trying to say something and he just can't really talk. So she comes in really, really close and he kind of like whispers and he just says, "Behind you." And then she suddenly turns and Steven's right behind her. It's cheesy, but like, it worked for me.
It's cheesy, but it worked. It was still effective. I also liked the payoff with the benzos, the sleeping pills.
Oh, about her spitting them out?
No, like they're introduced really early on. Like the first time that she's tucking them in,
right?
They say
she gives him his medicine.
Yeah, the benzos, and I was wondering to myself, like, oh, how are they going to establish what those pills are? Because they didn't say. They just, and then it comes back all the way later when Dr. Wilson is reviewing Mary's blood work and finds out that she's been loaded up with them.
Right.
And then you can kind of put everything together.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good payoff.
I don't know. I mean, there's also the possibility, this is where I went, as soon as Dr. Wilson sees her blood work and is like, "You've been taking your son's medicine," I thought he was right for a minute and he was calling her out that she's been like self-medicating and maybe she's the crazy one. And maybe...
Well, that's what he thought.
Right, right.
Or not that she was necessarily crazy, but that she was self-medicating.
Right.
But then she saw Steven's empty chair.
But I liked that possibility, too. That was
definitely.
Like the natural step you would make, I think, if you saw that, or if you had that information. I don't know.
Is what?
Well, I think you would first leap to the conclusion that she's self-medicating.
Of course.
Which then preempts you from leaping to the much more crazy conclusion that Steven is actually not paralyzed and he's force-feeding her.
So that's what happened, though.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
They successfully deterred me from predicting the actual twist by
Sure. Okay.
Is it too early to do our verdicts?
I don't know. Do you want to?
I don't know. What else? Do you have anything else?
The end is too protracted, I think.
Yeah.
We already said that.
Well, she makes a bunch of different attempts to escape.
Yeah.
She tries to escape from the bathroom upstairs. She tries to escape through the back door, but it's blocked by the dead body of Doug. Mm-hmm. And then she tries to escape through the skylight.
Yeah. She also has an opportunity to kill Steven in the kitchen.
Wait, what? With the...
After she sears his hand.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And she burns his hand on the stove, and then she hits him over the head with a skillet.
Yeah.
And he's down, and he's out for just at least a few minutes. And instead of finishing the job, she leaves.
But I think that speaks to,
they sold
her as a mother,
Yeah.
She sees, the vacant, innocent look in his eye when he's unconscious, and she can't do it.
Yeah.
And it's only, at the very end, when everything else has been exhausted, that she has to.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of effective. Yeah, sure. Do you want to get to verdicts?
Yeah. I think I'm more negative on this than you are.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
And maybe it's because I felt so betrayed by how much I liked the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I was just extra disappointed with how insane it got. So I'm just going to take a hard stance on this and pass on both. I'm trying to raise the bar a little bit on my standards because I feel like I'm more and more I'm realizing, I mean, most of the scripts we read, we're reading them because they've had some amount of success or acclaim.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's enough that it has a good first half or whatever. Like I've been saying, a lot of them have been falling off after the first half. No, that's a pass then. I don't care. That's average now. So
you're looking at this as the things we're reading, you're holding to a higher standard than that of the general script pool in existence.
Yes, but I think it's still the correct standard. Just the general standard.
Yeah.
Like, these are professionals. That's the standard. I think, that's the standard that should go for screenplays, is the one that you use for professionals.
Right.
Whatever. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a double pass.
Okay. I think I'll consider both.
Really?
I was actually teetering between a pass and a consider, but I think after talking it out...
You're actually trying to... I hope I didn't bolster your just for the sake of argument. Is that the sort of thing? You're just to be
different than you?
Yes.
No, I don't care about that.
Okay.
Because in the grand scheme of things, once I finish tallying all this up,
right? You're still tallying all the verdicts.
Well, I mean,
right?
I started tallying and then I stopped and I haven't resumed.
Okay.
But I will resume soon, presumably. But yeah, it's not perfect, but with a rewrite, it could be much better. Just tone the ending down a little bit.
Okay. You're not just talking about the ending, though. I mean, like I said, that twist comes pretty early. I feel like...
I don't know. You rework it to make Steven less fucked up. Less evil. Less downright evil, I think.
I think it's already a short script, and it spends a lot of those few pages towards the end. The already short script spends so many pages on just this elaborate escape from the house, which is all, precipitated upon how insane he is. I don't know. I think it'd be too much work to rewrite it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not it's not an overwhelming endorsement, but I think the writing's good too. I think thematically it's pretty strong.
Okay.
Compared to some of the others we've read, at least. So there's enough there for me to consider both.
And, well, you know what else? It's just I was thinking of Eli the whole time I read this, and I liked Eli so much. This paled in comparison.
Interesting. I guess that's where we disagree, right? Because I preferred this to Eli.
Eli was so good.
I passed on Eli, and
I forgot that you passed on Eli. Oh my gosh, that's criminal.
Do you think you'll see the movie?
No.
No.
Well, should we move on to next week?
Well, before we move on to next week, let's talk about our Facebook, which is facebook.com/OSPodcast.
Mm-hmm.
Our website, which is OSPodcast.com. Our email, which is info@ospodcast.com. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. You can find us mostly on iTunes and Stitcher.
Yep.
And yeah, thanks so much for voting in our poll. That was cool.
Yeah.
We got a decent number of votes by the end. We let a coin flip decide
and you know what? Now we can reveal that, we each kind of picked one of those, and this was the one that you picked.
Yeah.
For the vote, and
you think...
It looks like you got your way, didn't you? Because you liked this one a lot more than... not a lot more, but...
Not a lot more. We're really not
whatever.
that far apart, I
right.
don't think.
Whatever.
But
if anyone reads this script because of the podcast and they didn't like it, it's Steven's fault.
Me. Yeah.
And his character is named... The character is named Steven in the
script. Well, we don't know. So. It could be Stefan.
Pretty sure it's Steven.
Well... actually, you know what? I hope it is Steven, because us PHs need all the help we can get, even if it comes.
Is there like a divide between the Stevens with a V and the Stevens with a PH?
Well, there's already more Stevens with a V, which
you're friends with my friend Steve. Is it because he goes by Steve that you don't mind?
I have no beef. Well, it's just I feel like I'm pulled in both directions, because there's Stevens with a V, right. Which are already the more common Stevens, and then there's Steffens. That's spelled the same way.
No, I don't think you're right about that. Isn't Stefan spelled with an A? Like A-N?
No. That's Stefan.
Oh, man. There are too many versions.
Also, you're clearly not a sports fan. Because, the most popular athlete, or the most popular basketball player right now is Stefan with a P-H-E-N.
With a P-H-E-N. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, yeah, it's hard for a Steven with a P-H.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say. Next week?
Yeah, next week we're reading The Neon Demon, which is actually going to be coming out the following Friday. When aspiring model Jessie moves to Los Angeles, Her youth and vitality are devoured by a group of beauty-obsessed women who will take any means necessary to get what she has.